Alright, what's up everybody? It's your boy Akeen and welcome to the Pro Football Exclusive College Football Blog. We are on week 1 of the 2014 college football year. Things are finally kicking off and the big games are going to start already tomorrow. The first game in the SEC network between number 21 Texas A&M playing at number 9 South Carolina. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Open up the season with a big SEC matchup. Now Texas A&M, they lost a lot of key players, particularly offensively. Now a couple of skill players offensively, Johnny Football, as well as Mike Evans, a big-time receiver. But they do return 4 of their 5 starters at the offensive line. Despite losing Jake Matthews, he is now in Atlanta Falcons in the National Football League. Now for South Carolina, they lost a couple of key players in Connor Shaw, but they have a good replacement in Dylan Thompson, who does have some experience, and they have an outstanding running back in Mike Davis, rushed for over 1,000 yards last season. But defensively, they lost a couple of key players in cornerback Vic Hampton and a couple of D linemen and Jadeveon Clowney, who went first overall to the Houston Texans, and Kelsey Quarles. So that front 7, that D line's definitely the replacement's definitely gonna have to step it up for this upcoming matchup. Now for this season, starting off this 2014 year, I'm gonna kick things off with my upset game of the week. I'm gonna go with Texas A&M over South Carolina in this matchup. Now, despite some of the key losses offensively, they do return a lot of their key starters in the offensive line. Now the problem is their defense. Now they averaged 225 yards rushing yards allowed last season, which was second worst in the SEC conference for the past 5 seasons. Now they're going to have to improve this year, and they picked up a great recruit, a 5-star recruit, and Miles Jarrett. So for the Aggies, he should start away as a true freshman to help improve that defensive line. And then with the more experience with that defense, I think the defense is going to improve just a little bit and notch over South Carolina in this matchup. And also, I believe that South Carolina is going to pretty much sleep on Texas A&M, because Texas A&M is going to have to rely on more new faces. I just mentioned Miles Jarrett, but they also have a new quarterback in Kenny Hill, who is kind of like Johnny Manziel, a great dual quarterback. He was a star at South Lake Carroll High School in Texas, and he was the 2011 Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Texas. I think he could become a good replacement for Johnny Manziel and sleep his way in this matchup. I think the Gamecocks might kind of overlook this particular matchup and underestimate these young key players. And let's not let me forget about Speedy Noel. I think he could become a good true freshman at the receiver position. And I think they have enough talent to beat the Gamecocks, who did lose a couple of key players on the defensive side. And I think that the Gamecocks will sleep against the Aggies. So I think the Aggies are just going to pull out with the upset. But I think this is going to be a close matchup, and I think the Aggies will win in this matchup as my upset game of the week. Next game we need to talk about, at your Georgia Dome, number 18 Ole Miss is going to be playing against Boise State. Now this is an upset alert, because Boise is actually returning 15 starters, which is a good thing, particularly at the running back position. And JG, he's one of my prospects that I'm going to be looking for the 2015 NFL Draft. Now for Ole Miss, they have a lot of high expectations headed towards this season. They have their hopes of winning the SEC West Division, and they have a couple of key players and players who are already preseason All-SEC performers, and quarterback Bo Wallace, wide receiver Laquan Treadwell, and 2 great defensemen, and Cody Pruitt and Robert Kimdichie. They had a great recruiting class a couple years ago, and because of that, they're looking to win the SEC West Division. But this is going to be a tough year for the Rebels. Now for this matchup, I have to go with Ole Miss, because Boise State, even though they do return 15 starters, but they're going to have to play without their head coach, and Chris Peterson, who is now the Washington Huskies' new head coach, and I wish them the best of luck at Washington. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss in this matchup. Now I have another revenge game for you guys. UCF is going to be hosting Penn State. Now UCF beat Penn State 34-31 at Beaver Stadium in Pennsylvania, and I think that the Nittany Lions and Christian Hackenberg is definitely going to try to avenge that loss. Now this game is going to be played at Dublin, Ireland, and I think this is going to be an interesting matchup, and I do like the fact that this game is played overseas. Now, UCF, they're gonna play without Blake Bortles, who went 3rd overall to Jacksonville Jaguars, and a good running back in Storm Johnson. But they do have a couple of key receivers, and Rennell Hall and Brashard Perriman, two of their top 2 targets at the receiver position. But they have some question marks at the quarterback position, and because of that, even though their defense is returning 9 of their starters, I have to go with Penn State because of the questions at quarterback for the Golden Knights. So I'm gonna have to go with the Nittany Lions for this matchup. Next game I need to talk about, Ohio State's going to be playing against Navy, number 5 team in the nation. And the reason why I had to call out this matchup is because I forgot to mention that JT Barrett is the replacement for quarterback Braxton Miller, who's going to be out pretty much for the entire season. He's going to try to make it back. I apologize for that. I thought he was going to be out for the entire season. He should be out for the entire season, but he has a slight chance of coming back. I highly doubt that. I think that JT Barrett's going to be a pretty decent replacement, but we will see. He has a little bit of talent, but not the talent like Braxton Miller. But I still think that OSU is going to pull the victory. But I had to mention for you guys that JT Barrett is the starting quarterback now. Number 7, UCLA is going to be playing at UVA. This could be a little bit of an upset alert, but I think that Brett Hundley is definitely going to get the job done. I think they're going to have at least 2 touchdowns ahead in this matchup. West Virginia is going to be playing versus number 2 Alabama at the Georgia Dome. Now, the reason why I had to call out this matchup is because Big 12 SEC matchup is the opener for Alabama. This is a little bit of an easy win for this because West Virginia pretty much is just some garbage. Now, despite newcomer player of the year in the Big 12 conference, Charles Sims, that entire team was definitely terrible. Yes, they were, and they no longer have Sims, so this should be an easy win for the Crimson Tide. New team in the FBS division, Georgia Southern. They now represent the Sun Belt Conference, and I had to call them out for today's blog. They're going to be playing against North Carolina State, and the reason why I had to call them out because last year they played at the Swamp at Florida and beat the Gators, and I think they're going to do the same thing against the Wolfpack. So I'm going to have to go with Georgia Southern for this matchup, and the reason why I had to call them out is because they went from the FCS, a consistent team in the FCS division, and now in the FBS. Congrats to them, moving on up. Next game we need to talk about, Arkansas is going to be playing at number 6 Auburn. Jeremy Johnson is going to be starting at quarterback, but head coach Gus Malzahn did mention that Nick Marshall will definitely play in this matchup, and I had the Auburn winning in this game, but this could be a little bit of an upset alert because Arkansas head coach Brett Bielema is 8-0 in season openers, but I think because of the talent that Auburn has, particularly on the offensive side with Corey Grant at running back as well as Sammy Coates at the receiver position, and I think that Jeremy Johnson is still going to get the job done, but Nick Marshall would definitely play so that running game is still be in full effect. They were actually the number 1 rushing team running last season. Number 16 Clemson is going to be playing at Georgia, who's number 12. Now this is another revenge game for the Georgia Bulldogs who lost last season at Clemson. Now because Clemson lost pretty much their entire receiving core and their star quarterback and most prolific passer in Clemson history, Taj Boyd. They lost Sammy Watkins and Martellus Bennett. They're going to have to replace those 3 skilled players and their star quarterback. That is going to be very key. And the reason why I have to go with for Georgia, it's going to be at Georgia, a revenge game, and it's too much of a rebuild for Clemson. I think this should be a good win at Athens, and because Clemson's playing in a rough environment, I think that there's going to be too much pressure for quarterback Cole Stott, who's going to be the new quarterback, the starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. Now, despite Georgia having a new quarterback in Hutson Mason, he's the new replacement for Aaron Murray, and he has been very, very patient. He waited a long time to finally start for the Bulldogs, and I think because of that, it shows that he has good heart and he's a tough kid, and I believe in more his confidence over on Cole Stott, and that's another reason why I think that Georgia is going to prevail and avenge last season's loss against the Clemson Tigers. Another game that's upset alert, Fresno State's going to be playing at number 15 USC. Now, USC crushed Fresno State in the Las Vegas Bowl, and Fresno State's definitely going to try to avenge that loss. Now, despite their defense allowing 30 points per game, they have 2 key starters coming back this season in Darren Smith, who is one of the nation's leaders in interceptions, and also a good linebacker / defensive end, and Ejiro Indurain. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. He's a good defensive end / pass outside linebacker. I think these are two key components on the defensive side. Now, offensively, they're still debating who's going to be starting at quarterback between Brian Burrow and Brandon Conant, but I still think that this is going to be Burrow's job to take. And even though they lost Derek Carr, who is now in the National Football League with the Oakland Raiders, I still think that offense is going to be widespread and throwing the football. This could be an upset alert, but I'm still going to go with the Trojans in this matchup. Number 1, Florida State. They're going to be playing against Oklahoma State. This is going to be an interesting matchup. This game is going to be played at AT&T Stadium, a neutral site for both of these two teams. Now, Florida State has too many key returners, and Heisman winner Jameis Winston, he has a couple of great receivers coming back for him that he already has built the chemistry with. And let's not forget about a great running back and Carlos Williams, who's going to be one of my breakout stars to look at this upcoming season. And defensively, I still think they have a lot of speed, and because of the recruiting class and winning the national championship, I still think that this team is still going to rebuild and work their way back up and possibly making it to the college football playoff, in which I predict them that they will this upcoming season. I'm going to have to go with Florida State over Oklahoma State. Next game, number 25, Washington. They're going to be playing at Hawaii. Now, this is going to be the new era for head coach Chris Peterson at Washington. I think he's going to be a great coach. And last season, Hawaii allowed 38.8 points per game. This should be a good win for the Huskies to start off a good era for Chris Peterson. Last but not least, the Miami is going to be playing at Louisville. Now, Louisville crushed Miami 36-9 last season in the Russell Athletic Bowl, but they no longer have Teddy Bridgewater. And also, they're going to have to play without star receiver Devontae Parker, who's dealing with a foot injury, and he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. This should be a good win for the Miami Hurricanes to avenge last season's bowl loss. Now, I have one more particular game I need to talk about, my game of the week. And this season, for each of my games of the week, I'm going to give you guys a separate video. So I'm going to see you guys in a couple of hours with my game of the week for week 1 of the 2014 college football year. Thank you for watching this vlog. I'm your man, Akeem McCall for Pro Football Exclusive. Be easy.